Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explained here, bringing you guys another Boruto 2 Blue Vortex discussion. Today, I wanted to discuss the future of the character Jura and why we need to be taking a look at the continued evolution of Jura's character, because there are lots of signs that he is evolving into something more dangerous than any of us have ever expected, and he might very well end up being responsible for a major swerve moving forward into the story of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. I strongly recommend watching this one all the way to the end because I think Jura is a bigger menace than we imagined. So jumping right into it, the case for Jura, it is a rather interesting one because what the narrative has consistently done for us is make it clear that the guy is different when compared to the other awakened Shinju that we see in the story. That was done from the very start of the story's introduction of the awakened Shinju. All the other awakened Shinju were shown on the ground with Boruto, but the decision to have Jura be the only one shown flying in the air was done to start planting seeds in our minds in a subtle way that Jura was different than all the other Shinju, a potential final boss, if you will, when it comes to these characters. The introduction of the villain, it is just as important as anything they do after the fact when they're introduced. In fact, I would say the introduction of the villain is more important than any of the meathead scaling that you see where you start saying the mountains were destroyed, craters were left behind, and all the other mumbo jumbo that Battle Shonen fans tend to focus in on. All that stuff is cool, but it's ultimately irrelevant when talking about villains. The introduction of a good villain, it is important to nail right up front because you have two very important and very popular methods to utilize when crafting a villain introduction to a story. The first is to go for the super intense aura debut, where they do something immediately that grabs your attention, that makes it clear this guy is not somebody you play around with. Like for instance, with Naruto, the debut of Edo Madara, it accomplishes all that when you go with the manga version of the story. No disrespect to episode 322 of the anime, but I prefer how the manga handled Madara's introduction. So this guy just steps out of the casket. He has a short conversation with Kabuto. Then Kabuto says, hey fam, I want to see if Madara Uchiha's power was really worthy of the hype. And Madara's literal first action is to jump down and stage a brilliant two-part attack. The first part just being the most ultimate disrespectful flex of the Shinobi Alliance. All these guys, they're just lined up, and before any punches get thrown, Madara looks at them, smiles, and then busts out the majestic flame destroyer jutsu that is so large that the Shinobi Alliance, it is scrambling to react to. They're calling every possible available water release user to simultaneously use water release to try and block Madara's attack. You got hundreds of Shinobi desperately trying to block his jutsu, and despite having the change in chakra nature advantage, the best they can do is cancel it out. And before anyone realizes what happened, Madara is already moving through the mist and he's just slaughtering people. Dead bodies are just piling up everywhere before anyone realizes what happens. By the end of the fight, this guy's dropping a meteor from the sky and Gar is going, my god, this is the power of a god. This is how you introduce a villain. It's just being overpowered. We don't have to hear it told to us that, hey, this guy's holding back his true strength, because the story spoon feeds it via the action and said, hey, he's just toying around. You better be scared of this guy. On the other hand, the other method to introduce a character and have them be a threat that's waiting in the wings that nobody's paying attention to, that's also very popular. So they know that the character is dangerous, but they come in at a secondary threat that at the time pales in comparison to the larger threat. So we'll use a couple examples here. So for Naruto, this was done with Kabuto, someone who Orochimaru, the big bad guy at the time, is like, yeah, you might be as strong as Kakashi at best. Yet Kabuto, by the final arc, ends up being one of the primary targets of the Shinobi Alliance, and he ends up being stronger than Orochimaru. He just creeped up on the ninja world. Nobody saw it coming in the ninja world. In Dragon Ball, this was done with Dr. Gero, where he survived Goku's attacks, where he killed most of the Red Ribbon Army as a 12-year-old kid. And then 20 years later, Dr. Gero made two regular humans into cyborgs who are Super Saiyan killers. He made an android model based off of his dead son, who is even stronger than the two cyborgs 17 and 18. And he made a biomechanical creature in Cell, who was just like Kabuto. He was waiting in the shadows and acquiring power in the background before stepping into the light as the threat you needed to work worry about. Very similar to how a meek character nobody takes serious at the start ends up being the big reveal of the mastermind. One method has an immediate payoff. It's the one that shonen fans typically want, especially modern shonen fans who want everything given to them and spoon-fed up front. And then the other one is a more slower pace payoff that benefits from the narrative stretching things out, and you can't really judge it until the story arc involving that character is done. Right now, Jura is doing something that, in my opinion, as someone who's read hundreds of manga, despite the exceptions to the rule, this does not always work out well when you try to do both things at once by straddling the fence and trying to accomplish both things at the same time simultaneously. And I do believe he has a chance to join that rare club of exceptions to the rule. His lack of fighting with Boruto in his debut chapter, where he's the only Shinju to not engage with combat with Boruto, shows the readers that he is above the need to engage in petty combat, while he is literally being shown to us as being above combat that is taking place literally down below him. It is beneath him in a literal sense. His hands, they never left his pocket, and he just seems completely unbothered by everything that is happening. He's also being very quietly built up as being a future monster who has not reached his peak power yet. That much is told to us when he tells Himawari, hey, I ain't even using my full power, fam. The narrative has told us this, that he is different by showing him thinking on a deeper level early on in the story, but he, out of all the Shinju, has shown the highest capacity for growth and is maturing at a rate much faster than the others. He is continuously seeking out new stimulation and looking for more ways to grow and evolve. He is someone who doesn't just blindly follow his instincts. He is continuously seeking to understand the why behind his actions and his instincts. A villain with an insatiable thirst for knowledge is not going to be satisfied with just getting the answer to the why behind him seeking out Otsutsuki to eat them, and he's not going to be satisfied with devouring Himawari because she is in possession of Kurama's chakra. That desire for knowledge is going to continue to push him in the direction of moving forward in evolution, and the narrative has told us as much. Just going back to the conversation that Boruto had with Code. Boruto said that Code changed the Ten Tails in a way that could not be reversed. Code, on the other hand, stated that they were just brainless creatures who were only meant to seek out Otsutsuki, eat Otsutsuki, and then they get used to make a chakra fruit. He then doubled down on his belief when he and Boruto were confronted by the awakened Shinju. His answer to Boruto's plea for help wasn't to go help him at all, but instead it was him saying, hey man, for me, this is the best outcome. So let me get this straight. You're freaking out, but they're going to trap you. They are going to eat you, or best of all, they might eat Kawaki, and I'll just come in at the last minute and I get to take the chakra fruit and I don't have to do any of the work. It seems like a good plan on the surface level, but I challenge you. Ask yourself this question. Based on everything that we've ever seen with Jura's character, have you seen anything that even remotely suggests that he is going to be okay with being a pawn to someone like Code? Let me restate this. Someone like Code, who is so stupid he gives 12-year-old Naruto a run for his money with how unintelligent he is, which is saying something since Naruto needed to sound out words before spelling them, and he was too stupid to understand when Madara was insulting him until Obito stepped in and said, hey, hold on. I speak fluent, idiot. And he broke it all down on a 5th grade level for Naruto to understand what Madara was saying to him. And then even Hagoromo is going, Jesus, did the future generations of ninjas get stupid? And he had to dumb down his speech patterns in order for Naruto to follow it. I love Naruto, but he's a bit of a goofball and he wasn't the smartest guy out there. Jura doesn't come off as the type to be okay with being a puppet for anyone, and him developing at a faster rate than the other awakened Shinju. None of that was by mistake. He was shown guiding them to figure out who they needed to target to consume to be able to fulfill their desires and instincts. He was shown clocking Hidari the moment that Hidari even remotely looked like he was questioning him. He is continuously seeking out new information to get more understanding, whereas all the other awakened Shinju, they're still in that phase of operating off of instinct. If you watch Kaiju number 8 and you're familiar with the manga, you know why I compare him to Kaiju number 9. Those are all the signs of someone who has potential to gaslight and manipulate those around him in the future to satisfy his own questions and desires. There are two Otsutsuki who can be consumed. Are they just gonna cut Boruto and Kawaki in half? They're gonna sit down at a dinner table. They're gonna tuck the napkin in at their collar, and they're just gonna eat both of them. And then Jura, he's gonna hand over wine glasses, raise a wine glass and say, "Good job, boys. We had a good run while it lasted." And then they all become giant chakra trees that make chakra fruits. I don't think we're headed down that path. I think you are very more likely to be going down a path where Jura, as he continues to show more human traits, as he seeks out knowledge, shows the most human trait of them all: selfishness and the instinct for survival. Two traits that ironically are very closely intertwined. Someone who appears to be an incarnate of the Ten Tails main body, a being that never got to experience the world freely, but instead was kept pinned down in another dimension, is now out there living their best life, and they're doing new things all the time. He's experienced stimulation for the first time. The physical sensations of the air hitting his skin on the outside world, the dopamine hit that comes from fighting in a battle of his own choosing, and the satisfaction that comes from quelling his thirst for knowledge and then seeking out more knowledge to satisfy another curiosity. Those are things that will be hard for him to give up, and that brings me to the survival aspect. If he's growing attached to his world, which I believe he is he really going to be down with throwing away his existence in that manner, or is he going to start doing what humans do? The way that humans are shown questioning their own existence and what the meaning of life itself is. For some humans, the way that they do this is they start thinking about legacy and what they leave behind for themselves, their children, their family, what they contribute to society as a whole. For others, they start questioning what happens after I die, and they start seeking the meaning of life by finding religion, all 900,000 of them that exist. For Jura, clinging to life because of knowledge, it feels like that's where we're going here with this character. I don't think this is a character who is going to be shown regressing back to just following his instincts to devour an Otsutsuki. I think we're well beyond that. In fact, I think we need to have a very real conversation about whether or not he is going to be able to find it in himself to potentially use one of the dumber awakened Shinjuu, like everyone's favorite village idiot Hidari, as a way to prolong his stay in this world, potentially using him or Matsuri or Bug as a pawn. That's part of why I'll die on the hill that Code, he is making a mistake by just sitting in the cut and waiting for all the work to be done. He's trying to be that person that is sitting at the finish line to pick whoever is the winner. But this feels like a scenario where the person that's running the race realizes their value and isn't going to let someone else benefit at their expense because they did all the hard work. It could just be me coming to that conclusion, which that is totally fine. But I do think we're only just getting started when it comes with Jura. The same way that Fairy Tail 100 Year Quest is only just getting started with the Dragon Gods, which this video on the left breaks down each of the 6 Dragon Gods. And over here on the right, we have another Naruto Explained video for those of you guys who want more Naruto content.